Alright guys, so in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at some MLB teams that never existed, whether it's relocation or expansion. A lot of these cities still to this day do not have teams, and there are some interesting logo designs, some interesting ideas on what their stadium would potentially look like. Let's first begin with the Las Vegas Lizards. Now you can see via this graph up in the top right corner, they would have been in the NL West and possibly established from 2005 or 2007. Likely a move from Montreal to Las Vegas. And the logo, it kind of reminds me of the Diamondbacks a little bit. It's decent. I do not think Las Vegas would use this if they had to totally rebrand, but it's an interesting idea. So there is the Las Vegas Lizards. Of course, Las Vegas will be getting an MLB team. We just don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to go with the Athletics? Are they going to go for a rebrand? Will the Athletics possibly remain in Sacramento and they'll get a different expansion team? I know a lot of people want that to happen. This idea is just ridiculous. And the logo it's just strange. The Tampa Bay Montreal Dragonflies, potentially a team playing some of their regular season games in Montreal and some of their regular season games in Tampa Bay before the Rays got a team, because they built Tropicana Field before they got an MLB team. So they would have played there and also in Montreal at Olympic Stadium. And it just looked, the Dragonfly, the color scheme kind of reminds me of the Mariners. That's the vibe I get with it. But it's a weird logo. A lot of these logos are very generic. They're circle designs with baseballs, and it's a weird idea to play a season in two different cities, and it just makes no sense. It would be a terrible idea, but there are some different designs there. How about the New Orleans Pirates? Yes, the Pittsburgh Pirates, before getting PNC Park. There's always the idea, you're in a multi-purpose stadium. Will they be able to build a new stadium? Well, this was the Pirates possibly transforming and going to New Orleans. I don't think the Pirates theme suits New Orleans. New Orleans probably should have changed it if they were to get the team, but the Pirates are a historic franchise, so maybe if they did get them in relocation, who knows, they might have to play in the Superdome, because I do know that the Superdome could have potentially hosted baseball. They originally built it to be a multi-purpose stadium, and it did host some spring training and exhibition games in the late 1970s. It's impossible at this point for the Superdome to host baseball. It is now just a football stadium, and it hasn't hosted baseball for like 30 years, but it's just an interesting idea. Maybe they would have played in the Superdome if they got the Pirates for a few years and then potentially built their own stadium, presumably an open-air ballpark. I haven't seen any plans for like a New Orleans MLB stadium. I have heard a few people talk about them possibly getting an expansion team, but there's really no dialogue there. The Oklahoma City 89ers being established in 1993. The 89ers is an interesting nickname for a baseball team, but I'm not a big fan of that logo. I mean, I guess it is interesting. You've got a tree up there. It is certainly unique, but of course, Oklahoma City, they've never gotten an MLB team, and I really don't think they're going to, but the 89ers, kind of a unique name. The San Antonio Missions, so that's kind of a generic name. I believe San Antonio, there is a San Antonio Missions, but it's a minor league team, and they possibly would have existed in 2008, potentially getting a team via relocation and possibly rebranding them. I have heard that San Antonio and that Austin area could be a dark horse for MLB expansion in the coming years, but right now it does seem like they're focused on building a new NBA arena. Kind of a unique logo. I don't mind it. The next one, San Juan, the Expos. I do remember a ballpark being designed in San Juan. I don't think the Expos branding looks good for San Juan. I would like them to rebrand, but yeah, they would have potentially gotten the Expos. The Virginia Fury, that's a good name. The Fury, they would have been established in 2005. They would have gotten the Montreal Expos. There were a bunch of cities that wanted Montreal. It was kind of like the big team that everyone knew was relocating. And the Virginia Fury possibly could have existed. They were also talking about naming the team Norfolk as well. Virginia, kind of an interesting situation. They're the biggest state in the United States with no major Big Four sports team. And to me, it's just a generic logo. I think they would have changed the logo to their secondary logo, or maybe the one with the V and the horse. I just think including a baseball and a circle, it makes it look very generic. So maybe they would have ended up changing it, but they did have a few different designs for a potential stadium if they were to get the Montreal Expos. The Florida White Sox, it just looks wrong. Yeah, so the White Sox almost moved to St. Petersburg, to Tropicana Field. They agreed to a stadium deal in the 11th hour in 1989. They needed to replace Comiskey, and they did so with what is now Guaranteed Rate Field. It's kind of come full circle. The White Sox might be on the verge of relocation again if they can't build this new stadium, but that is to be determined. I think their secondary logo with just the sock looks better, but rebranding the White Sox to that dark green and like the orange with the yellow, I just think that looks bad. It's a bad color scheme. Maybe the throwback primary with the sock surrounded by, maybe that's the state of Florida. I'm not exactly sure. And then the baseball. There's some okay logos, but the color scheme for it is really bad. And obviously, like, the Florida White Sox just sounds very weird. The New Jersey Stallions. This is really good branding. I think it looks good. I think the name Stallions is really good for a baseball team as well. The Washington, this would have been the Washington Grays, not the Washington Nationals. So the name Nationals ended up winning out. I do think Nationals is a really good name. Grays was another option. You can see how their logo would have looked. Kind of looks like a throwback there. I believe the Grays were a Negro League team, and I have seen Washington wear that logo as a throwback a few times before. There is the team branded with Norfolk, the Destroyers. It does sound like a minor league team, the Destroyers, but you can see a home plate. You've got a ship there and the Norfolk Destroyers. I would imagine their secondary logo would probably become their main logo, just looking at that. You do also have, this is one of the more random ones. I do think this logo looks really cool. This is one of the better logos. The Miami Gators. This would have been a relocation of the Cleveland Indians when they were still at the old Municipal Stadium trying to build a new stadium, possibly relocating, but they got the money and they built Jacobs Field. But I do like that branding a lot. The Miami Gators. It looks very nice. And then the Tampa Bay Stingrays. So there was a few different names. The Stingrays were one. Obviously, they did become the Devil Rays. And then from my understanding, the reason they changed from the Devil Rays to the Rays was because mainly you don't really want the word devil in your name. It just sounds, kind of, in terms of selling product, it's not great. So they just changed it to the Tampa Bay Rays. But the Stingray is certainly a cool design. There's no doubt about it. And then looking at some previous rebrands, some of these I'm sure people know about, other ones maybe not. So yeah, Miami went through a huge rebrand in 2012 when they moved into Marlins Park. I like the 2012 logo. I think it looks vibrant. It looks nice. And then they kind of went back to what they previously were as kind of the Florida Marlins. I like the Miami Marlins logo. I think it just signifies like tropical, the bright colors. I like the M font. It's very rigid, but they decided it wasn't good enough and they went back. And they've kind of got a weird color scheme. You've got the blue and the black. Some people like that. You also have the baseball there with Miami at the bottom. And then also, obviously, the Cleveland Indians changing to the Guardians. The Guardians logo is not here, but I'm sure everyone knows what it looks like. So yeah, they really did phase Chief Wahoo out, kind of starting, I want to say in like 2012, 2013, but it was technically still their main logo all the way until 2014. And they really didn't want to rebrand, so they changed it to just like a block C. And I feel like nobody really knew what the Indians logo was. Like everyone just still thought it was Chief Wahoo, but it wasn't. It was the block C. For 7 years, they used that because it was a weird situation. Obviously, they're like, well, some people think it's racist, some don't, and they didn't know what to do. So they kind of went through a weird period where they just had this boring block C as their main logo for 7 straight years. And then they rebranded to the Guardians. And look, if you're going to change the name, I think the Guardians is a bad name personally. It's kiddish, but it is what it is. They decided to do it. But either way, guys, those are just some MLB teams that do not exist, along with a few logo changes that recently happened. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.